this guys.
All sports have seasons that are more memorable than others, for both good and bad reasons. One of the most important seasons I want to highlight is the 2014 Valenti Modified Racing Series season, as it has so much to offer. With great competition came great controversy, and it would significantly impact the standings and series by the time the final checkered flag flew at the Thompson World Series. Heading into the new year, if you asked anyone which touring series had the most mojo going for it, you would say the Modified Racing Series over the NASCAR Tour. Cost-effective racing without compromising quality racing is the best way to describe the series. It allowed more underfunded teams a place to race without all the additional expenses the NASCAR Tour had. The best part is that no caution laps were counted. As a fan, you wouldn't have to worry about the cars riding around under caution, burning 5 laps of racing up for a car that spun out and got back going without any damage. It was a great addition to the modified scene and was able to attract some of the most popular drivers in the area as well. Was 2014 looking to be a banger? All signs pointed to it. Now, my one disclaimer is that in no way am I trying to bash one series over another or gaslight. So if something positive or negative is said, don't get all butthurt about it. I'm just stating the facts as best as I understand them and also offer my opinion from them. So, over the winter, a new rule regarding the engine packages was announced. It allowed for a spec GM engine to be used, which has more power and weighted less than the traditional steel head engines that most teams had. These engines had aluminum heads and the bigger 4-barrel carburetors. Now, due to this, the teams using the steel-headed engines could get a weight break of around 25 pounds. However, as we get into the season, some drivers wouldn't be too fond of this rule. The season kicked off with the annual Blast Off 100 at the Waterford Speed Bowl, where Keith Rocco started on the pole and shut out the field. He led from green to checkered and won. He even swept the day and won all 3 races he competed in. Rocco was not a full-timer. Another way the engine rules would come into play is that he would be able to keep the engine fresh, allowing his engine to withstand higher RPMs without stressing the engine, giving the likes of him and Ted Christopher in the 00 car, owned by the late Joe Brady, at the bigger tracks that require more power and use more RPM on the straightaways, the advantage. Also, many full-timers would have trouble in this race, like Todd Szegedy, whom was no longer running in the NASCAR Tour in 2014, Steve Massey, and rookie on the MRS this year, Justin Bonsignore. However, Szegedy would recover from the accident he was involved in and finish a strong third. Bonsignore and Massey would finish 19th and 21st. The second race was at the Monadnock Speedway for the Spring Dash 100, and it was a good one for defending series champion Rowan Penning. He won his heat race, drew the pole, and then later led the field across the finish line to capture a victory for car owner Gary Casella. After being one of the heavy hitters that was involved in the big wreck at the Speed Bowl, they were able to get some points on the board and get their title defense going. Justin Bonsignore finished second and Steve Massey finished third. All 3 rebounded from Waterford and were battling for the lead throughout the race. The third race of the year took place at the Cement Palace of Seekonk Speedway. It was the Sims Spring Classic 100. Veteran driver Richard Savory was looking to get his season going in the right direction after a tough start. He had a brand new car from Brad LaFontaine and finally unleashed its potential. He made a pass for the lead on lap 45 and went on to get victory. This was his second career victory. The 4th race of the season took place at the high banks of the Thompson Speedway. In a heavyweight fight up front all night, Todd Szegedy was itching to get a win. His last win was at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway in 2013. And since then was on a bit of a dry spell. TC was attempting to pass him for the lead for most of the race, even fighting through lap traffic for an opportunity to make the pass. Rocco and Penning were all up there as well, but Tommy Barrett in the number 9 car was looking for an opportunity to make a smash as well. Now let's rewind. Barrett is known around New England as the guy who mastered the tire rules in the series. Since you cannot put fresh tire on during the race, Barrett would rid around when the caution came. At a time he felt would give him a competitive advantage, we would swap the left front tire with the right rear tire and storm up to the front. The analogy was that on a modified, the left front tire is the tire that gets the least amount of wear, while the right rear gets the most. I am not sure how the tire stagger was at the beginning of the race, but he was able to master this strategy and win at a place like Stafford. Tonight, he would get a late race caution and go from 4th to 2nd and be in position to win. He made a very controversial pass on Keith Rocco that would spend Rocco spinning, and on the final lap, he made a move on Szegedy for the win. He made contact and Szegedy went up into the marbles and lost positions. Barrett would win and no penalties would be given. Now, this may have been the first case where some questionable officiating would come into play, but it would definitely not be the last. Scott Tapley is one of the best in the business and is loved by the drivers as a race director, but would step down from operations mid-season. Szegedy was not pleased with the race outcome. He said, "That's the way everyone drives at this track. To me, that's not how you race, but that's the way it is. The best car didn't win tonight." The 5th race of the season was back at the Seekonk Speedway, and it wasn't much of a contest. Steve Massey took the lead on lap 4 and held off Justin Bonsignor to win the race. Bonsignor was able to stay consistent and keep gaining points and take the point lead. Massey touched on the engine's rules going to the 6th race at Stafford. He mentioned that the part-time drivers are able to get a bit of an advantage because they use the spec engine, and the weight advantage he gets doesn't help cut the gap between the steelhead engines and the spec engines. Massey even skipped the event at Stafford because of these engine rules. He was the winner the last time they raced there. Race 7 saw a bunch of modified Tour regulars in the field. Eric Goodell made a start along with Woody Pitkat. Pitkat made his first start in the Pete Kalesa number 42 car. This is actually one of my favorite paint schemes, and I forgot to mention it in my paint schemes video. TC took the lead but was not able to get away from the top guys as they were under a blanket all night. Goodale took the lead and then TC got by him past halfway. However, Todd Szegedy was looking to get redemption for the Thompson race and was not going to be denied the victory. He took the lead from TC late in the race and never looked back. It would be his lone win of the season for the Kenny Stewart team, but really helped him in the point standings. After 2 straight race victories for Richard Savory, the series returned to Stafford where Keith Rocco would capture the win. However, I want to focus on race 10 in the season, the Wings End Wheels 100 at the Waterford Speed Bowl. Tensions between drivers in the series would reach a boiling point in the early hours of the morning after the event. Steve Massey returned to the series, would start on the pole. He would lead the first 42 laps until TC got around him. Now the race was pretty good until the restart with 4 laps to go. From 2nd on back, Pitkat and Barrett would lock wheels off turn 4 and block the track, collecting most of the field. Now Todd Szegedy only spun but didn't hit anyone. However, while the red flag was out, apparently other teams were able to work on their cars while car owner Kenny Stewart was told he couldn't. After a verbal war of words from the series owner Jack Bateman and Stewart, the 85 team was disqualified from the event. Now, I didn't know this until I woke up and read the articles, but it happened. Apparently, according to the rule book, there is a rule that if you were already in the process of working on your car and the red flag come out, you can proceed working on your car. However, anyone else cannot, and it is pretty hypocritical. I 100% agree with Stewart being upset, and the penalty never should have happened. The 85th team was running for points and were given a 3-race suspension. Szegedy came into the night 4th in the standings, only 10 points off the point leader, Justin Bonsignor. Stewart decided he would no longer race after the suspension, and to this day has never raced another Modified Racing Series race again. Now, I cannot find the rulebook online, so I'm only going off some comments on the articles I read, but I'm pretty sure in most motorsports, you cannot work on your car under the red flag. TC would go on to win the race, snap a 2-year winning streak drought. Now on a more positive note, race 11 at Seekonk was very exciting. Max Zackham started on the pole and would lead early. Rowan Pennick would be spun by the 99th car on lap 4 and spend the rest of the race getting back to the front. Todd Anaruma would take the lead, but would not be able to hold off Richard Savory for the lead. Savory showed he had the car to beat. Points leader Justin Bonsignore was moving up third of the field and was in striking distance with 10 to go. He used the outside lane to make up spots and try and pass Savory for the win. With 3 laps to go, he got to the outside and was wheel-to-wheel with the 99. Savory would run the 21 up the track, but in the next turn would do the crossover and get to the inside of Savory for the lead. Won the final lap, Bonsignor would get very loose off turn 2, and Rowan Penink from 4 cars back would shoot the gap and take the lead in turn 3. Penink carried too much speed on corner entry, and Pro Stock legend Norman Wren would snag the lead and win the drag race to the finish line. It was his first ever modified win. Penink and Bonsignor were unhappy with the way the Savory raced them. After a race at Monadnock, Rowan Penink took over the point lead as they headed to race 13 at Stafford. Tommy Barrett was looking to get another win this season at his home track and would do just that. The real deal would make use the tire swap strategy to his advantage and make a 3-wide pass on lap number 57. He would hang on to win and would start to get on a roll for the remaining few races. However, the competition for the title was very fierce, and the word controversy would again make a comeback in the twilight of the season. The series made its way to its lone race in the state of New York at the Airborne Speedway, and Tommy Barrett brought his momentum from the win at Stafford and looked to go back-to-back. This racetrack has offered very competitive racing and exciting finishes, and this race was no different. Before the green flag flew, Justin Bonsignore had a series record of 5 second-place finishes this season, but no wins and was looking to change that. The race would start with some new names up front. Matt Mead and Max Zachem led the field to the green, and Zachem would take the lead. Then Chris Pastriak would take the lead on a lap 32 restart, and Bonsignore would eventually get by Zachem for the second spot. Bonsignore would spend most of the middle part of the race trying to track down Pastriak for the lead. Pastriak has been a dark horse for much of the year, even though he was pretty high in the point standings. Barrett was outside the top 10 and off the pace for most of the race. However, everyone knew he was saving his tires for a late race restart. With 24 laps to go, Bonsignore was able to get beside Pastriak a few times, but was unable to make the pass. On lap 21, the caution was thrown for Barrett, who spun. Now, who knows if he spun himself, but the caution came out and the race was reset. Bonsignore was able to get the lead from the 5 car with 20 to go. Barrett flew up through the field and came from last to third with 11 laps to go. Then with 9 to go, he made a move on Pastriak to get the second position and had to chase down Bonsignore to get the win. The 21 of Bonsignore mentioned he lost power steering, his radio communications, and with less than 10 to go, thought the battery was going away as well. If he wanted his first ever career MRS win, he'd have to hold off the 9 car. With 3 laps to go, Barrett was there and tried to make the pass on the outside. He led with 2 to go into turn 1, but could now get ahead of the 21. On the final lap, Bonsignore may or may not have jerked the wheel on the exit of turn 2 and made very slight contact with the 9 and was able to break away and lead back to the checkered flag for his first win and the point lead. No call was made, and the track with these cars lived up to the hype, and it was a great race to watch. The series returned to the Waterford Speed Bowl to start the month of October. Keith Rocco returned to the series in winning form at the Speed Bowl, as he would take the lead early and dominate. A bunch of cautions came during the 100-lap race, but the championship contenders avoided disaster. Rocco won with Bonsignore finishing 4th and Penink, the second-place point man, finished in 6th. Heading into the final 2 races of the year, Tommy Barrett was on a hot streak. Bonsignore, the point leader, was doing everything he needed to do to win the championship, and Rowan Penink was just not able to get the same finishes as his championship rival to dethrone him. At the Lee USA Speedway for Oktoberfest weekend, Tommy Barrett utilized his tri-strategy to perfection again, and on the final restart was taking no prisoners and moved up through the field late in the race. Now again, if you thought the wings and wheels officiating was questionable, the officiating towards Barrett in this one is straight up embarrassing. As Barrett was passing cars, apparently the officials felt that he, quote, used excessive use of the front bumper. Now, I can't stand dirty driving, but on the replay of the end of the race, the 9 car didn't hit anyone. Only once did he make slight contact, but that was because they cars stacked up a bit in front of him, but nobody was moved out of the way. Barrett took the lead from Savory with a clean pass. Then he let him go back by him for the lead, and then make the pass for the lead a second time, as a way to show the officials there was no way he was going to lose the race, and he could make a clean pass more than once. Barrett was penalized after he crossed the finish line, and the win was given to Richard Savory. Many fans were upset with the ruling, and it made no sense. You see guys bull blatant BS moves and not get called out, yet someone that just so much faster than everyone makes pretty clean passes and get DQ'd? Hell no. But that was how the race at Lee ended, and it was on to the finale at Thompson. Before the finale at Thompson, Justin Bonsignore came to Lee USA Speedway with a slim 5-point lead over Rowan Penning and started in the back. Now he would take a 37-point lead into Thompson ahead of Rowan Penning, whom had an ignition problems at Lee. The World Series 75 kicked off with Steve Massey starting on the pole and holding off an early race challenge from Woody Pickett and Keith Rocco. Bonsignore and Penning were in the top 5 to start the race, and to win the title, Bonsignore would need to finish 15th or better, and Penning won the race. Now the race was pretty clean for both drivers. However, with 10 laps to go, Bonsignore would make a very questionable pass on the 45 car and catch the left front tire on corner entry and stuff the 45 into the wall. Bonsignore's right front tire was bent, and the team frantically had to repair the suspension so he could win the title. Penning was running in the 5th position, and Bonsignore fell back to 17th. When the race ended, Steve Massey won the race. However, Justin Bonsignore, a rookie in this series, was able to hang on to finish 17th. While Penning finished 5th, Bonsignore survived the late race scare to be crowned the 2014 series champion. He ended the season with a points lead of just 19 points. He may have only won one race, but the consistency is what helped him be a champion, and that is the most important attribute of a champion as well. In 2025, Bonsignore is the biggest star on the NASCAR Modified Tour and is headed down south to compete with Joe Gibbs for some Xfinity Series race and continue his racing career. After lots of memorable competitive racing and a good championship fight, you'd think the series wouldn't be peaking. However, to me it did. I believe a lot of the controversy stemming from the sanctioning body really rubbed some drivers that many people admired the wrong way and forced very good teams and drivers out. The Wings and Wheels event was the big one, along with the penalty to Tommy Barrett and Lee. Both teams are not heavily financed, and it hurt. Steve Massey, another underfunded team, couldn't race the whole year due to the new engine rules he felt put a wedge between the full-time guys and part-timers. In present day, the Monaco Modified Tri-Track Series is the top series. However, the now Milton Cat Modified Racing Series is finally starting to get back on its feet and swing its sword. It has been able to get some races back in Connecticut at Waterford, but I still think it needs a summer Thompson race, the Wings and Wheels event to return, and get a race back at Stafford to really be back. Thank you all for watching. So long from the Speedway.